Live from the Jane and Brian Williams studio at Elon University School of Communications, you're watching Elon Local News.
Tonight, the battle for SGA Executive Vice President is ongoing ahead of tomorrow's election. Good evening, I'm Brian Ray.
And I'm Margaret Faust. For the first time in 5 years, 2 executive candidates are facing a runoff election after no candidate for vice president received more than 50% of the vote, placing the race in an automatic runoff. Arme Vashbrook has the story.
A surprising result.
There is going to be a runoff for executive vice president.
Elon Jr.'s Chloe Yoon and Ireland Horan are continuing their campaigns for one of SGA's top spots.
It was initially hard because I think campaign burnout might sound silly, but it's real.
I was a little confused at first because this is something I've never seen in my time here. But I'm just excited.
In the first election, Yoon got 48% of the vote and Horan 34%, but with 3 candidates in the race, no one received over 50% of the vote. Yoon says knowing she received the most votes the first time left her hopeful.
I got so many messages being like, I'm so glad you're running. I've never seen an Asian very few Asian candidates I think have run in SGA. And so I think that was really uplifting.
Trevor Mullen, who is no longer in the race, says he isn't endorsing either candidate, but is encouraging his supporters to vote again.
I'm just hoping that we can get the word out to generate votes and have people come and vote because it is very different.
Horan has had many roles in SGA over her 3 years at Elon. She wants to increase SGA's transparency.
I think that the secret to success with VP is there needs to be a balance between professionalism and seriousness, but also approachability.
Yoon has never served on SGA, but says an outside perspective is needed to make legislation more inclusive.
Instead of spending these last 3 years in SGA, be able to spend more time with people outside of SGA and learning what potential people who are also a part of the student body, whose voices should be heard, want and need.
Both Horan and Yoon say win or lose, they still plan on being involved with SGA. Maeve Ashbrook, Elon Local News.
Voting is tomorrow from 9 to 5 on Phoenix Connect.
While the race for the executive vice president will conclude tomorrow, the races for executive president, secretary, and treasurer are already finished. Elon Jr. Jack Corby won 82% of the vote, defeating Daniel DeRosiak in the race for executive president. Junior Caroline Penfield won her uncontested race for treasurer, and Haley Juergens also won her uncontested race for secretary. A list of all the winners can be found on our website, elonnewsnetwork.com.
And joining us now to discuss his win and the path moving forward is Executive President-elect Jack Corby. Jack, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Margaret.
So the SGA runoff election starts tomorrow. Are you publicly endorsing Chloe Yoon or Ireland Horan?
I cannot endorse either candidate. I just hope that every student recognizes the need to vote tomorrow and comes out and votes. We had a pretty good turnout in this past race, and I hope to see the same turnout for tomorrow's election.
Yeah, and you beat your opponent, Daniel DeRosiak, by 82% of the vote, so pretty significant win. Do you still see a place for him in SGA?
Of course. I think anyone that puts their name out there the way Daniel did and really put his wants and needs for SGA out there very well, I think that if he would like to stay in SGA, there's always a place for Daniel in SGA.
Jack, your campaign focused on the 5 C's: continuity, communication, community, culture, and care. What do you plan to tackle first?
Good job, Margaret. 5 C's. I really want to look at the care aspect. The menstrual product system that SGA piloted 2 years ago is expiring this May, and I really want to make sure that by the start of the 2021-2022 school year, that is in full force and that every student who needs access to those products does have access to them.
And when will we start to see some of the changes that you mentioned in your campaign?
I hope to see some of the smaller changes, mainly internally within SGA right from the get-go. I've already been in contact with Caroline and Haley, who won their respective elections, about the little things that we would like to see on a day-to-day basis changing within SGA. The bigger picture stuff obviously will take a little bit longer, but I hope to make those changes within my term.
And do you have plans, to seat that empty class of 2022 secretary seat?
Yes, I actually have already had a couple people reach out to me in hopes of filling it. I've also been in contact with everyone who did run in the race, including Daniel, about filling that seat, and hopefully we can get that seat filled as soon as possible.
Jack, you're talking about these big picture ideas that you want to implement. What are some of these bigger projects you have in mind?
Totally. So the outdoor the outdoor fund that SGA set up a couple years ago, that Jonathan Stetler, the outgoing executive vice president, wrote while he was in the Senate, put a lot of money into getting things that we see every day now on campus, like the Adirondack chairs on outside on the front lawn in Mosley. I really want to reinvest in that program a little bit and try to include outdoor outlets in some spaces that we can wire them to, so that students who want to study outside as the weather gets a little bit warmer has access to that. Laptops do die, and I just want to make sure that those places can charge those devices.
Yeah, and you also mentioned continuing hybrid learning post-pandemic in your campaign. Do you foresee following through on that as well?
Yes, of course. I want to work with the faculty and the provost's office of making sure that every student has access to both virtual and in-person learning. Post-COVID, I think it can be a great resource for addressing people's mental health and letting people take a day off while still being involved within the classroom and the Elon community.
Another thing you mentioned were these constitutional changes, and I know the Constitution changes passed. What does that really mean for the student body, and how will we see those implemented?
So the change within the Senate will be slow. It'll happen gradually over this year, and they'll take full effect in April of 2022 with the next executive board. That's just how the Constitution changes will happen, go into effect in the way they were written. The things that students can expect to see right now are the creation of a cabinet, which will have 7 different director positions, working with different offices across campus to address initiatives and things like sustainability and diversity and inclusion that me and the rest of the execs really feel need to be addressed on Elon's campus as soon as possible.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Jack.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Elon is awaiting doses of the coronavirus vaccine to start its vaccination site in the Francis Center, located past Danley on East Haggard. In preparation, 300 student employees are being asked to help staff the site. Managers are allowing their student employees to work a 2-hour shift every week, checking in visitors and assisting with record keeping instead of working their on-campus job during that time. Elon sophomore Ashley Deandra says she wanted to do her part in helping vaccinate the community.
I've spent more time as a college student with a pandemic than without. So it's been a really weird experience. So I just want to do anything I can to make this, end sooner.
While Deandra values her work in the Writing Center, the minimum 2 hours she'll work at the clinic will make more of an impact on the campus community, she says.
If there's any if there's any way of getting the vaccine out to students faster, and if I can at least, put it on social media and let my friends know, like, hey, I'm going to be volunteering at the clinic, come by, I can help you get your vaccine if you don't have it.
University officials anticipate the clinic to operate at full capacity from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Fewer than 10 Alamance County residents had tested positive for COVID-19 on this day last year. Since then, there's been more than 16,000 positive cases in the county, and 237 people are dead. Frontline staff at Alamance Regional Medical Center tell me they're tired, stressed, anxious, and traumatized, but they still have hope for better days ahead.
We're still out there. We're still taking care of your loved ones, and that's what we're going to do because this is our job and we love what we do.
Nurse Stephanie Summers says when she leaves work, it's hard to forget what she's seen.
You go home and you start thinking about how alone these people are, and they're scared enough to have this virus that nobody knows about, and they're alone. They can't even talk on the phone because they can't hear anybody. And it breaks your heart.
Seeing patients die from the virus has left a mark on both Summers and her coworker, Serenity Kirkendall.
We would have to basically do FaceTimes with patients' family members and let them say their goodbyes through FaceTime, which is really hard.
I held that man's hand right up till the end because I couldn't bear to see him pass by himself.
Yeah.
And so that's something that'll stick with me forever.
Respiratory therapist Shannon Mabe says it's hard seeing patients go from being lively to lying in a hospital bed.
Seeing people that were young and were pretty much normal before COVID coming in and not being able to breathe and, needing oxygen, an extreme amount of oxygen, and they just couldn't breathe afterwards either.
Summers and Kirkendall are on camera together because they, along with Mabe, rely on each other to get through the pandemic.
Work together, we've learned a sense of teamwork to care for our patients.
Being on people that understand what you're going through and being able to talk to them, not keeping everything bottled up.
With nearly 13% of Alamance County vaccinated, these frontline workers say they have hope for life without the virus.
That's the only way I think this is going to truly end, because once majority of us are vaccinated, these masks can come off. You know, I'm done not seeing everybody's faces, and I want to be able to go home and see my family.
And all three urge everyone to get vaccinated when they can, but to also keep wearing a mask. You can hear more from Summers, Kirkendall, and Mabe about their experience on the front line at our website, elonnewsnetwork.com.
When current sophomores enter their senior year in the fall of 2022, a whole new section of campus will exist. Tonight, our Emery Eisner reports on the construction delays on Elon's new Innovation Quad.
The first classes in the new Innovation Quad buildings are now 2.5 semesters away, a 6-month delay. University architect Brad Moore says construction projects were slowed last spring to brace for the financial impacts of the pandemic. Director of the engineering program, Serena Hargrove-Leak, says the delay in construction and in developing the engineering program has made room for more thoughtful work.
I have been comfortable being patient, and I just had the faith all along that it would come together exactly as it was supposed to, exactly when it was supposed to.
The new area of campus will be home to the university's 4-year engineering program and physics department. It includes 2 new buildings and 2 outdoor quad areas. Chair of the physics department, Martin Kamela, says giving more room to each STEM department on campus will allow for more connections and creativity across campus.
That is, I think, the coolest thing, is that by providing sufficient resources and opportunities for STEM departments to expand. We don't know where we're going to go, but I know it's going to be interesting and it's going to be great. And there are going to be things that happen that we don't anticipate.
Even for engineering junior Henry Chance, who will graduate before the new buildings are finished, he's excited for future students to use resources seen at high-level Research One universities.
I think that the building's new equipment will really make research be able to happen quicker and more impactful.
Moore says he is most excited to see the 2-story Commons area in Founders Hall come to life. He says the space is designed to let people outside the program see projects underway inside, and hopes it will be popular for students across majors. Emery Eisner, Elon Local News.
As of today, the construction team has fully removed the asphalt from the McMichael parking lot to make way for the building's foundations.
Elon University seniors will receive some long-awaited clarity regarding graduation in the coming days. In February, the university presented 3 possible commencement options for the class of 2020 and 2021, including a fully virtual and in-person option. The university will announce their decisions for commencement no later than Friday.
Beautiful sunny skies today, and joining us with details on if this weather will continue is our Haley Phelps, live under the Oaks.
Haley, good evening to you.
Thanks, Brian and Margaret. Today I took a walk around campus for what marks the 3rd day of spring, and there's beautiful flowers, sunny skies, and warm weather. Tonight the temperature will drop to a low of 49 degrees, so still not too cold. Now for your Phoenix 5-day forecast. Tomorrow and Wednesday will be cloudy, and on Thursday, the high will be 77 degrees, but then the temperature will drop to the low 60s at night. Friday, it will be warm again with a high of 82 degrees and a low of 52 degrees. On Saturday, it will be nice again with highs in the 70s and mostly sunny skies, so make sure you get outside and take a walk around campus. Now, back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Haley.
You're watching Elon Local News.
You've probably noticed that the weather is getting nicer, but spring is bringing many Elon students the dreaded allergies along with it. Our Hope Sweer takes a closer look on the role masks play with allergies this season.
North Carolinians aren't strangers to getting red eyes, coughing, and sneezing this time of year. All of these symptoms are caused by seasonal allergies, and according to pollen.com, the Piedmont Triad region's pollen forecast is very high this week. Elon freshman Regan Polino says her allergies have been kicking in.
Been pretty bad, and this usually happens at this time of year. I've just been super congested, and I get a headache.
According to Johns Hopkins Medicine, around 8% of the U.S. population is affected by seasonal allergies. One difference about this year's allergy season is people wearing masks outside. Allergy and asthma specialist Dr. Meg Weiland says mask wearing is helping.
Also have like asthmatic symptoms and wheezing, and they're looking like they'll probably help that as well if they're worn outside.
If you're planning on gardening or doing yard work soon, she recommends putting on the mask for that too. Although she says masks help with pollen, congestion is still possible. Weiland also says asthma or wheezing should not be affected by wearing a mask.
Wearing a mask is almost like training for a running race. You don't just like jump in and you're really good at wearing a mask. I mean, it takes time to just get used to that feeling of something in your face and blocking your breath.
Although studies have shown masks don't make breathing more difficult, it's taking some time to get used to 4.0.
Like when I have to wear a mask, like breathing, and like sometimes I just have to like go to the bathroom and like take a break for a second.
LeBauer Allergy and Asthma is located off of South Church Street in Burlington and are taking appointments. Hope Swear, Elon Local News.
Elon University also offers allergy immunotherapy at the Student Health Services. You can make an appointment there by calling 336-278-7230.
Alternative breaks are experiences held during fall and spring breaks for students looking to volunteer. Programs this year moved from a week-long experience to a weekend experience because of the changes to the academic calendar. Our Ellis Chandler has more.
Usually, alternative spring break programs take place as far as 8 hours away from campus. This year, students ended their weekend with a campfire at Alumni Gym. Student coordinator and sophomore Savannah Josie planned to go to Costa Rica last year, but it was canceled. She says she's excited to serve as a program leader this year.
Alternative breaks is unique in the sense that it connects different majors, whereas some of the other service programs maybe attracts more of one type of major than others. So I really wanted to facilitate kind of a cross-campus service experience.
This year's programs took place locally with issues varying from education inequality to immigration. Program advisor Kyle Anderson says those mean more than the travel itself.
The programs are based around not so much where you're going, but the actual issue that you're tackling, and trying to have our groups focus on that as a priority when they go off and do their experiences.
Students volunteering in Burlington collaborated with Citygate Dream Center to help get students in Alamance County ready for college, but ended up sharing those resources while helping with the newly opened vaccine clinic. Josie says volunteering locally helps her see differences between campus and the community.
I'm a lot more passionate about how am I investing locally and how am I kind of empowering people who live in this county and will live here after I graduate.
Although this year's trip was only for a weekend, Anderson wants students to continue their work after they return.
My hope is that students carry those stories with them, bring them back to campus, and then think about how they can help dive deeper and create meaningful space for conversation and action based on that issue or other related issues that they're passionate about.
Ellis Chandler, Elon Local News.
Fall and spring alternative break student coordinator applications for next school year opened today on Phoenix Connect.
Elon freshman Apple Namwong is one of the best female golfers in the Colonial Athletic Association. Namwong, an international student from Bangkok, Thailand, is currently ranked third in the conference after a successful start to the spring season. Despite her successes, though, she says living in a new country has its difficulties.
Well, it's quite challenging because it's the first time being away from home alone, like far and overseas.
As we approach the end of Women's History Month, Elon University President Connie Book sat down with our Kira O'Connor to talk about her experiences as a female leader and her goals to reflect our largely female-dominated student body.
President Connie Book says she is no stranger to being the only woman in the room. From her roles as a TV journalist to being the first female provost of the Citadel, to now, the first female president of Elon. Book says being a female leader is important not just to her, but to the younger generation that might look up to her.
I do think it's really great for women to see me in this role, because I think it's the same reason it's important to have people who look like us in the classroom or in the workplace, right? Because it shows you, oh, if I want that, I can, that's a possibility. That's a range of possibility.
While Book says she has always felt supported by her coworkers, she knows she is lucky, as she says many women do not feel supported in their workplaces. Book says in order to help this, she is trying to hire faculty who reflect the student body's 60% female population, a proportion that has grown in the last 10 years.
I do think the most critical thing we do is hire women at all levels in order to foster a great environment for women on campus.
For Elon's 8th president, fostering a welcoming environment includes the importance of mentorship.
You need safe people to process and talk through what you're experiencing. And so identifying people in your life that you feel safe to do that and dedicating the time to it. To call people, and it may not be your natural instinct to say, hey, could we get a cup of coffee?
Kira O'Connor, Elon Local News.
For more coverage on Women's History Month, visit elonnewsnetwork.com.
And that's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
For more news anytime, all the time, visit our website, elonnewsnetwork.com.
Be sure to follow us on social media at Elon News Network.
Have a great night, Elon.